Hello, my kako, everyone. Hello. My first thoughts after watching that, boy, that's scary. My first thoughts is we're not doing enough. And, you know, Kule, Mealoa asked me, gee, or mentioned to me, I'm looking forward to what you have to say. And I told her the same thing because normally I just jot down a few notes and then I ask Kupuna for help and then it goes from there. So bear with me and I'll be happy to hear what I have to say after this happens. That's how we roll, okay? Set the context. The context from my perspective as being the chair, as also being, I think, a chair who has and continues to be a cultural practitioner while in this role, and oftentimes having, as I like to tell people, schizophrenic thoughts. And it's schizophrenic because as an individual, as a son, as a father, as a grandfather, I have my own thought processes. But as I often point to the chair behind the desk in which I sit, there's responsibilities that go with the chair behind the desk. So let me set the tone for you. I always think about things in terms of sort of the cycle of kuleana. And so the first step in my perspective is sort of this recognition. And I think we all, everyone in the audience, has this recognition that climate change is here. Yeah? There are a couple of crazy guys out there that don't. And we have to excuse them and we have to forgive them because they have their own agendas. Yeah? But as far as us, having kuleana in mind, we recognize. Right after recognition is to seek the understanding, to seek the ike that's involved in. And I think that presentation was a perfect segue into understanding where we are, why we're here, and where we need to go. And then, from a Hawaiian perspective, standing up and saying, okay, we recognize, we understand, and we have to do something about that. And when we reach that stage, then it's accepting the kuleana. Yeah? Accepting that we have to plan. Accepting that we have to implement those plans. And in the planning and in the implementation then becomes or plays out the demonstration of kuleana. So I tell my grandchildren all the time, you can talk about kuleana all you want, but until you demonstrate it, you don't deserve it. Yeah? And then when you're somebody my age or a little bit younger, when the kupuna come to you and go, okay, it's your turn now, and you have that kuleana placed in your hands, do you truly understand the privilege that is also the other definition of kuleana? So today we have been given kuleana. Today we must start planning. And from the Director of the Department of Land and Natural Resources, we have been talking with different agencies about those permitting processes, talking with city folks, talking with the division within my department, the Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands, where we have direct kuleana over permitting and sort of how we approve how people do things in conservation lands and how we need to change that to account for the changes that are projected. We also can expect, and I think we're seeing it more and more every day, that when we do get storms, they are a lot more intense. You don't have to tell anybody in Kauai right now, right? Because they're still digging out. There are some portions of Maui that's still digging out. There are some portions of Oahu that's still digging out from those more intense storms. First time, I think, in history that this Aina had hail and big hail, not little hail. You know, so I had people worried about their cars, and I was more worried about them running around outside and getting hit in the head by hail than their cars, because that's what you have insurance for, right? I think, but now we have people saying that insurance in Hawaii doesn't cover hail, so it's another thing we have to change, right? More intense storms. What does that mean? Well, it means more flooding. It means, from a cultural perspective, the folks in the audience that I know that Ma'alama fish ponds have to be prepared for the double whammy. The high, intense, high volume rain that's going to fall on the mountain and then make its way to the ocean, and then the increases in surface sea temperature, and then the onslaught of this slow flooding with the waves that are on top of that. What do we do about that? Or what is the department doing about that? Well, the department is, as I said, amending our rules so that we can do repairs much quicker under OCCL. The department is also in discussions with federal partners, other state partners, such as the Fish and Wildlife Service, NOAA. The most important two guys in this equation, Army Corps of Engineers and Department of Health Clean Water Branch, right? Everybody in this room recognizes that when you're dealing with Aina near the ocean, those are the two most important partners to have in the room and to speak the same language with. So what we're doing is we're having more meetings with them, not with the intent to necessarily try to, well, we want to change policy, that's for sure. We want to change their interpretation of things, but I think more importantly, of building relationships. Yeah? Because building the relationships between the agencies is really what gets us through this period where there's a word and we're all stuck on that word and that word is open for interpretation. I think are the most important things that I can do, the department can do in terms of changing things so that we can react to and deal with the changes coming up with climate change. What we really have to do is we have to get people ready. We have to get our forests ready. We have to get our fish ponds ready. We have to get government agencies ready. And how we're doing that in the Department of Land and Natural Resources is responding to global climate change and the Malka portion with the less rainfall that we know is not coming. Yeah? The rainfall is not coming as much as it used to. In fact, in my lifetime in Waianae, I can tell you that I agree. The summers used to have lots of rain in Waianae. That's when we'd have the Kona lows come through, and that's when we would, on the Waianae, get the majority of our rainfall. I haven't seen those in a long, long time. But also what I see, and when I talk with other folks my age in Kupuna, is we see sort of the season being pushed back. So the summer is lasting a little bit longer. It's going into August, September, maybe even October right now. You see kiawe trees in Waianae right now that have seeds on them. That used to be an August, July, June event. And we're seeing it more. You're seeing mango trees that give fruit 2 times a year now instead of 1. My own mountain apple trees, I'm not complaining. Sometimes I get lucky to give fruit 3 times a year now. I'm not complaining. Okay? But these are the changes that we're seeing in our physical environment. And so, what is the department doing? I'm going to remind you once again. We just revised the OCCL rules to make it easier to do quicker repairs in conservation lands to structures. We are in the historic preservation because sometimes projects have to go through that review. We have increased and made more streamlined our processes for tracking requests that come through. That can be very important because sometimes you can't find a project, you can't facilitate it moving forward. Making more state lands available for the cultivation of kalo is something that I hope to make pa before I leave my position and we're moving forward. It's nice to know that we have attorneys that are actually accompanying people out in state lands, that the law is still there, it's just a matter of clearing the land, connecting the awai, and planting. So figuring out a way to allow responsible people to go and restore lo'i lands is something that we're moving on, and particularly proud to say that the philosophy of DLNR under my care right now is the only way to honor the land is by bringing life to it. Yeah, so we're slowly trying to get that as a foundational statement of all the employees of DLNR. As I said, one thing that I've learned in the year and 3 months that I've been in the job is relationships are a lot more important than memorandums of understanding. I can tell you that right now. I've been able to do more in terms of moving harbor projects forward with having everybody in the same room, talking the same language, having some food, laughing, making an agreement before they leave the room, and moving projects forward. So we're going to continue to do that. And then the last course of action, of course, is to work with communities. So retooling the department to be able to adjust to and facilitate more community-based management efforts. Yeah? Doesn't mean we're going to cede all of the authority. So the communities, don't go put it on your guns and badges yet. We can't do that. Statutorily, I can't do that. But certainly taking input, taking input from Kupuna and balancing Western science with indigenous practices is something that we're moving more forward to. I think the timing is right now. Trying some out-of-the-box things like taking the Division of Aquatic Resources and putting them in the Division of Forestry. I thought we would get a much better alignment in terms of sort of ahupua'a management. Unfortunately, I've been told by the legislature through some introductions of bills that they don't feel that that's the right philosophy right now. And I recognize that the legislature makes policy and I implement. So we'll do that realignment, maybe philosophically or through relationships anyway. Yeah, because that's what needs to be done. We have to align our fisheries with what happens at the top of the mountain. And then real quickly last, the watershed initiative is probably the most important initiative that DLNR has done in the last 20, 30 years. So I would urge you all to support, and I would caution that there's this misunderstanding out there in the community that our watershed initiative is solely only based on fencing areas off, removing the ungulates, and stopping people from accessing an area. Nothing can be further from the truth. It includes how do we look at reforestation. It includes how do we work more closely with the local boards of water supplies to pick areas above wells so that we can begin to measure the impacts. It also includes heavily the removal of invasive species, working with the watershed partnerships, working with communities. So I just want to take this time to make that point. It's not all about fencing off and not letting people go. It's all of those initiatives all together. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the invitation to come, not only to share, but also to learn. So, mahalo.